Hi, it's Congresswoman Jan Schakowsky back again with my plans and pans. A lot going on right now as we end this session of Congress. I wanted to tell you that I got 2 amendments added to the Defense Authorization Act. Some of you may know that most of my career I've been dealing with the issue of private military contractors over whom we have very little oversight. Well, I finally got into the Defense Authorization Act an amendment that says that they have to tell us how much money we spend on private military contractors, how many there are, how many have been injured and killed in action. This is very important for us to know, because that means the footprint of our military activities is really much larger than we think it is. The other amendment had to do with the revolving door of people who work for intelligence and the military, and how many of those, and there are literally thousands and thousands that go into private contracting. We want to know, into the private sector. We want to know how many there are and more oversight on that. I want to give a shout out to my colleague, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, who confronted on the House floor, took quite a while, a personal privilege, to call out Congressman Yoho, who actually got into her face on the steps of the Capitol and called her all kinds of names, including dangerous. But she also repeated the words that he was heard to say about her as he was leaving and overheard by a reporter. First, he denied it. So she went to the floor, and what she really accomplished, she said, look, I've been a waitress, I've been a bartender, I've heard these kinds of things before, but now I'm a member of Congress. And he would say that to me. What would he say to other women? Imagine that. And she said, so it didn't really bother me that much. But it needs now to be understood that men cannot assume that kind of attitude toward women, and it's time to stop. It was really a magnificent and important statement, and hopefully helps to put an end to it, not only to her, but the time is up for all men to be saying that to women. We also had a fascinating hearing with the CEOs of pharmaceutical companies, and that's also a big issue of mine, the cost of pharmaceuticals. This was about the now about $12 billion that you as taxpayers, we've all paid to the pharmaceutical companies to help us find a vaccine and therapeutics for COVID-19. Well, each of these, I asked a question, and I was the only one who raised the issue of cost. How much is it going to cost for individuals to get these vaccines or therapeutics? So I asked each of them, are you going to do it at a reasonable price? Will you do it at cost, or do you plan to make a profit? And all but one said, oh, no, they certainly did not intend to do it at cost. This is after the money that has gone to them already. Johnson & Johnson said that during the crisis period, they would, as they're exploring therapeutics and a vaccine, they would charge just cost. But what does emergency mean? When do they decide that it's over? So my concern is this, that consumers are going to end up paying twice. That will pay to help fund the pharmaceutical companies, and then they'll pay when we want to be able to get the vaccines that are so important. And if every single person can't afford it, that means we're all still at risk, because there will be so many people in the United States or in the world that can't afford the vaccine. So that came to light. There's been lots of talk about that, and we'll see if we're going to be able to get any requirement for affordable prices. Then I also introduced a piece of legislation that I was hoping to do in a bipartisan way called Informed Consumer. And what that would do, you order on Amazon, and it's not Amazon that is selling you the product, right? So what we want is for Amazon to do some vetting, or any company like Amazon that is an online marketplace, that they would have to vet the vendors, because we know that there are scams that go on, there are counterfeits, there may be dangerous products that are actually sold. So first of all, the bill would ask the online platforms to vet the actual sellers. And then the actual sellers would have to provide to consumers their name, their address, and a phone number, a way to contact them if there is a problem. So I introduced the bill. As I said, I had a Republican co-sponsor, but the Republican leadership said squelched all that and wanted to put it off. So I'm hoping that still we'll be able to get that back online and be able to pass the bill. So every week I mention the fact that the president has not mentioned what about those bounties that Vladimir Putin, the Russians, seem to be offering, and we have evidence of it, to the Taliban to actually kill Americans. This week, it's even more critical because the president talked to Vladimir Putin on the telephone. And as far as we know, there was no mention of this at all. You know, reporters are trying to find, did you ask the question? What about these bounties to kill Americans? We don't know anything. We still don't know anything. And then in a little while, I'm going to go with my good friend and colleague, Debbie Dingell, and demand of the Republicans that they finally do something about unemployment insurance that is about to run out next week. You know that we were able to extend a $600 benefit every week to people who are unemployed, to make sure that they don't drown in debt and being evicted or all those things. So we want to have it extended. Now let's remember that the Republicans were shameless about passing a $2 trillion tax break. 80% of it, 83% actually, went to the top 1% of Americans. Helping rich people, fine. Helping people who, for no fault of their own, are unemployed and have no source of income, that's another matter. So we're going to fight tooth and nail to make sure that we're able to extend those benefits. And finally, I want to talk just for a second about my friend, John Lewis. I realize that there are thousands of people who say John Lewis was my friend. And guess what? They would all be right. He was my leader. Some of you may have remember that we sat down on the House floor. I sat right next to John, demanding that we get some legislation to control gun violence, which we didn't, by the way. The Republicans were all in charge then. And I also got arrested with John Lewis because we were fighting for comprehensive immigration reform. It was John's 60-something arrest, my first. And also I followed John Lewis along with my husband. We followed him across the Edmund Pettus Bridge, which may be renamed, we'll see, for John Lewis. That was to commemorate Bloody Sunday, where John was beaten near death. He thought he was being killed. His skull was cracked by the police in Alabama, the state police. So we lost such a hero. Let me just tell you this, that there were moments I would call John Lewis moments when our Democratic caucus would meet, and sometimes the mood would get gloomy and people were clearly frustrated. That was a John Lewis moment, and he would stand up and he would say, he's generally soft-spoken, but when he would make announcements like this, his voice would be loud and clear. And he would say, what people want from us, it is our mission, is to give them hope. And then he told us that this struggle is not a struggle of a day. It is not a struggle of a month. It is not a struggle of a year. It is a struggle of a lifetime. People need hope that there will be change. John Lewis spent a lifetime fighting for that kind of change to make a better country. And we just miss him so much right now. Thank you. Thank you for watching my video. Make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel and follow me on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, where my handle is @Jan Schakowsky.